Okay, so it looks like we got a quorum of 21 and we could probably go ahead and get started. This is the second introductory session for a new set of classes that have been ongoing for more than several years now. And so we welcome you all, and I think there may be one or two new people who have not attended before. It might be a first time, maybe a second time. And if you haven't already shared how you found out about the class, we would love to hear from you. All you need to do is kind of just unmute. And I'm going to go back to the gallery so I can see try to get back to the gallery view so I can see if there's, or you could raise your hand perhaps. Anybody new to the classes tonight that cares to share where they found out about it? Yeah, so Pamela, if you just unmute, there's a little button at the bottom, that microphone at the bottom of your screen, which you click on. Let's see if this works. If I could, there you go. You're unmuted.
Okay.
Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you. I joined your class because my sister sent me the book, How Not to Die, near the Christmas holiday, and I was very excited about that. And oh, now I've lost your picture. Oh, well. My sister is Joan Cabin. So she was the one that prompted me to start thinking about this. And I'm on my 6th day of whole food, plant-based eating.
Well, congratulations to you. We're thrilled to have you. And if you need any support, it's available, but it sounds like Joan is able to help you a bit. But if you ever get stuck with anything, feel free to keep in contact and keep coming to the classes or look at them online. They're free. The cost is right anyway. And congratulations to you. How are you doing after those first few days?
I enjoy the food and I'm not missing anything that I used to eat. And it's meeting my goals of losing some weight and dropping off some of my very expensive medicines.
Wonderful. So many good reasons why you want to be coming to these classes or at least learning about the information that's presented here. And so thank you for speaking up and letting us know.
Yes.
All right. Is there anybody else who cares to share? And Joan, thank you very much for the recruitment.
Hi, my name is Bonnie, and I learned about the group about a year ago from a friend of mine. I've attended, I think, one of the book club meetings, and this is my first joining live on one of these meetings. So I received a pretty big medical diagnosis about 4.5 years ago, and I am certain that I am doing as well as I am in part to lifestyle choices and food choices. So, and I'm not 100% plant-based, but largely plant-based.
Well, welcome, Bonnie. You don't have to be 100% plant-based. You come to the classes, you listen to the science, you make the decisions as to what you're comfortable with. And so we're really happy to have you. And actually, I saw Lisa Chick was here, the book club starter. And I think you started with her book club. And so Lisa has been doing counseling for free for those people who need some extra help. And I don't know, maybe Lisa, you want to say a quick hello to Bonnie or to anybody else who's in the room?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Lisa. I'm a third ish year medical student, and I just started my OB rotation yesterday. So I love to offer any health coaching for anyone who's interested and just needs a little extra guidance. So it's a one-on-one virtual meeting, and I just updated my schedule. So my Calendly link, which you can find in Scott's email, I'll also put it in the chat, is up and running. And we also have the book club. So we started that last January. And this year we're starting with Fiber Fueled, and we're going to be reading that for January, February, and March. And if you're interested in that, you can just email me and I will add you to the email list, and I'll put my email address in the chat as well.
And it's
Now-
no cost, totally free.
Correct.
So Lisa, you may lose a little sleep if you get called out in the middle of the night to do a delivery.
Maybe they're nice to us. At Kaiser down here is where my rotation's at, so schedule's okay.
You have more of a fixed schedule than an actual OB-GYN would have.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
So enjoy it.
Thank you.
Delivering babies was one of the joys that I had in my first practice in Oak Ridge, Oregon. I delivered about 50 babies, and there were moments of terror, but there were surely moments of joy when that baby those would breathe and cry, and you know, parents might be tearful and brought tears to my eyes, and it was quite rewarding. But for my very first breech delivery, my palms were sweating and I didn't pass out, but it was quite the excitement. I'll never forget that day. Worked out. Okay, Nancy.
Yeah, talking about delivering babies, and being a general practitioner, there's a really interesting book. I don't know if anybody's read it. It's called Following Fifi. And it's a guy who kind of a gap year went and worked or volunteered with what's the lady's name? The chimpanzee lady.
Jane Goodall.
Jane Goodall. And he was assigned to follow Fifi and, document everything she did and so on. And he got to witness, the chimpanzees having babies and everything. And then he came back and he went to medical school. And later he goes back with his son to, see how Fifi's doing. Or I don't know, she might have died by then. But he ended up telling how this experience kind of, what do you call it, informed his practice, so that he was a much, much better doctor for having done this this volunteer work with Jane Goodall and the chimpanzees. So anyway, might be an interesting book for some of you medical students, Lisa. It's just very, very, very interesting.
Thanks for sharing, Nancy. So is there anybody else who either is new or who is old and may want to... Okay, go ahead. It's LMB.
My name's Linda.
Hello, Linda.
I'm here with Donna. She talked me into coming to the group, and I was here last week, and I'll continue to come. I'm learning and enjoying it, so thank you.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, and we're really glad to have you. Anyone else?
And we have Carrie with us, so this is going to be a threesome every Tuesday.
Oh.
We
All
support
right.
each other and attend together and fix a meal for each other ahead of time. So that's
We
okay.
love that. Good
Yeah.
for you. Congratulations on doing that. You've got your own group there.
Yeah,
That's one of the reasons we're going to the YMCA, Scott and I, starting February 4th to do some in person so people can kind of group together a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice, we can come back and you have an opportunity as time goes on. We'll try to stop intermittently through my presentation today to give you an option to either ask questions or speak up or share something that's happened with you that has caused you to keep coming back to these classes, because it's helpful for the new members to hear why there are those of you who aren't speaking up right now, why you're attending these kind of sessions. And so let me go ahead and share my screen. And you, most all of you were probably here last week for Scott's orientation, which covered quite a number of issues and was very well done. And I'm going to kind of share this PowerPoint with you. And I'll try to stop intermittently so that we have time for questions. So I've got to do this slideshow from the beginning.
While you're doing that, Charlie, I'll just mention that if you missed last week's class, it's up on the website, the class website, livelifestylemedicine.com, and you can watch the recording, just like you can watch the recording of every class we do there.
Very good. Did you all get that? Live Lifestyle Medicine. So I kind of like to title this Changing How Healthcare is Delivered. We actually are in the United States. We have kind of what I consider, and many others, a sick care system. You know, you go to the doctor gets paid when you're sick, doesn't necessarily get paid unless they're in a certain kind of environment where they, you know, get paid if they keep you well. That's what we would like to see. Environments in which the doctor gets paid if they keep their patients well, or at least coach them to do that. Hard for the doctor to do that for the patient, but they can be a coach. So I have no financial interest from anything discussed in this session. There's a few questions I want you to kind of think about and contemplate. I won't ask you to actually speak out right now. Why would you want to come to a class like this? And why do you eat what you eat? How much research have you done to determine your healthiest choices? I know 12 years ago, I had done pretty much no research other than what I had in the medical literature. And I actually found out I had very little understanding of the science of nutrition. There are a couple other questions. Does what you eat really make a difference to your health? And don't your genes determine your health? You know, we live in a culture in which we think our parents and grandparents have diabetes or heart trouble, and so we're next in line, and that's in our genes. I hope from these classes you learn that that's only about maybe 20% of your health, and that you can actually turn your genes on or turn them off by your lifestyle choices. And Scott went over the different lifestyle choices. There are 6 of them. We're going to review it again. You're going to hear this over and over again, pretty much. What you eat, how you move, the chemicals you choose, how you deal with stress, including your social contacts, and sleep. And so if you address those issues, you actually can overcome some of the genetic tendencies that you might have towards certain diseases. What is the deal with this whole food, plant-based stuff? You know, you're hearing more and more about it in the news. And why are we talking about it so much now? And then, you know, if you're worried about your teeth, aren't citrus fruits, we tell you to eat more fruit and vegetables. if you're eating more fruit, if you're eating citrus, aren't they bad for your teeth? You know? And so maybe you've had some of those questions, but we hope you get these answers as the classes go on. Before the class goes on, I want to kind of share my story with you as to why I'm standing here before you now doing this. Standing here before you, I really didn't want to do this. I was pretty content and happy. I'd been a doctor for almost 35 years, and I thought I knew what was healthy eating and healthy lifestyle. I pushed a lot of pills. I thought I was doing good, but the reality was my patients really didn't get better. Their numbers would go up and down. Blood sugar would go up and down, no matter how many pills I prescribed. Same way with high blood pressure. It got to be kind of a burnout for me. I wasn't seeing people getting healthy. And then along came Sanjay Gupta, and he changed my life. He did a special called The Last Heart Attack. It was a program on CNN where he reviewed a study at the Cleveland Clinic. And in that study, he reviewed a book. I don't know if you can see this. It's Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. We have it on the website. You can see it there. At this study, Dr. Esselstyn took end-stage heart patients. He took patients who kept having one heart attack or a bypass or another stent after another. They were on the maximal medical therapy that one could have. And 4 or 5 of those people were actually told, you're probably not going to live the year out. You better get your affairs in order. He took those people and said, I want you to do something different. I'm going to counsel with you every couple of weeks to try to keep you on track, but you need to eat differently. What do you need to eat differently? How do you do that? You don't eat anything that has a mother. You don't eat anything that has a face. You don't eat processed foods, and no added oils. No oils like you've heard are so healthy for you, like olive oil or avocado oil. You just don't do it. And by the way, since you have such extensive heart disease, we're going to also tell you don't be eating anything that has high fat in it. And foods that have high fat are nuts and seeds, avocados and olives. You just need to restrict those in your diet. And so he met with these people every couple of weeks. And 12 years later, they were all alive. The interesting thing about this is that there was only one person who had a bypass surgery. He was a guy who, after 6 years, said, I feel so good, I'm going to go back and eat how I used to eat. And he wound up with another cardiac bypass. Well, the others, no further heart attacks, no further stents, no further bypasses. Totally amazing. After 12 years and most even past 20 years. Not only that, but he actually had angiograms of these people that showed clogging of their coronary arteries before they started this dietary change. And then he repeated these angiograms. And it took about 1 to 3 years on a whole food plant-based diet to actually show unclogging of the arteries in a number of people. It's about, I think, 35% of the group, something like that, a third of the group. Well, there was another study. This was the second study, or at least there are 2 studies in the world literature that actually demonstrate reversal of heart disease. The other study was by Dean Ornish, and he took people, he put them on a plant-based diet, not quite as strict as the Ornish or Esselstyn diet, but he also exercised the patients. He put them in yoga and meditation, and he put them in group therapy to love more and hate less. And he showed 86%, I believe it was, of people showed unclogging of their coronary arteries by angiographic analysis. Now, there's been no other study in the world literature that has demonstrated unclogging of the coronary arteries, reversal of heart disease. So wouldn't you think that this would be something that would be of interest to the medical profession? Well, it hasn't been a large degree so far. It's getting more so, but it was definitely of interest to my wife. And my wife, she had a history of her dad dying in his early 40s. I think he was 41. He had a heart attack and he died. He had no second chance. And then there's my wife's mom. She was in her early 60s and she had a cardiac bypass. And my wife's brother in his late 50s had a cardiac bypass. And my wife was in her early 60s. She was as old as they were. She was next in line. When she asked me the question, do you think we should do this? My first response was, no, I don't want to do this. I mean, think about it. I love my cheese pizza. I'm eating ice cream, a tablespoon or two every night because, I can't go to bed without my addicting fix. I love French fries and fried chicken, and I love my standard American diet. And what's the sense in living if you can't enjoy the foods you like? If someone had told me back then, Charlie, it's going to be 12 years, you're going to love the foods you eat. It's not going to be anything you're like you're eating now, but you're going to like it. You're going to feel good. You're not going to be taking any pills because you won't have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or diabetes. I would have told them they're nuts. Doesn't make sense. But that's the case. She asked me the question, do you think we should do this? And no, I didn't want to do it. And a little voice on my shoulder said, your wife's history, do you want a new wife or what? And I decided, I can compromise here. I could do this for a month. Go along with what my wife wants to do. And then I can go back. She could keep doing it if she's feeling good. And I'll go back and eat how I wanted to eat. Well, the first month we pulled, after watching Forks Over Knives, a video, and reading through Esselstyn's book, the next day we pulled out all the meat, dairy, and eggs, gave it to our kids. They thought it was Christmas time. We didn't realize we were giving them poison at the time, but that's how I think about it now. I was very skeptical. I had no belief that this would help me or my wife, really. I had heard about Ornish's study, but I was a non-believer. I would laugh at one of my emergency department physicians who would only bring his salad for lunch. And I said, you can't live on that. I mean, it's ridiculous. I was pretty ignorant, actually. And so we pulled out all those foods, and my wife went out online and bought a whole bunch of different kinds of beans and different kinds of rices and lentils to add variety into our life. She made sure we were stocked up on a bunch of spices, and we went out and filled our refrigerator with greens and various vegetables. And on our countertop, there was lots of fruit and frozen berries. And that we began our new existence here on the planet. I was never hungry the first day, for one day during my first month of doing a whole food plant-based diet. Never hungry, always feeling full. And yet my weight came down 10 pounds. I'm 35 pounds lighter right now. It took a bit of time, but eventually it just came down to my ideal body weight and I stopped losing weight. I love that. Losing that 10 pounds. I had a bit of a gut on my belly and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But what really convinced me was my cholesterol level. I had had a cholesterol level of 240. I had tried 3 different statins. They all gave me diarrhea so bad I had to change my clothes at work. I tried niacin. It burned my head so bad. you know, the discomfort, I swore I'd rather die than take that again, ever. So I was convinced that I was just going to live with my high cholesterol level and just live a shorter life because I couldn't take the pills. I didn't realize at the time that those pills, if you look at the number needed to treat, that actually there's one person that gets help from who hasn't had a heart attack or stroke. One person gets a heart attack or stroke prevented out of 104 people over a 5-year period of time. So that means the rest of the people get no benefit and they potentially can suffer the side effects connected with taking the medicine. I didn't realize it at that time. But my cholesterol level after 30 days of being full all the time and actually liking the food I was eating, it was a little bland the first couple weeks, but then as my wife added a few more spices and as my taste buds changed in a couple weeks, wow, it started tasting better. My craving for eating every donut, brownie, and cake that was in the emergency department break room, it just went away. I was getting nutrients that I hadn't had before, and I wasn't craving food all of the time, which I did before. And my cholesterol level dropped to 148 in 30 days. Over the next several months, it went down to 135. I was so happy the first month, I jumped up and down, literally. I started telling other people about this, and over the next year, about 4 people got off of their high blood pressure medicine, cholesterol lowering medicine, their diabetic medicine, and were losing weight. And I decided about that time, it was time that I stop treating chronic illness with pills and give up my emergency department practice and go into preventive medicine. Teach people how to change their diet so that they could reverse their chronic illnesses. And over the last 12 years, after teaching classes most every week, sometimes 2 classes a week, I have these cards and letters and emails from people. And I do these classes now for these people. Why do I do them for these people? Because they had a lot of barriers to changing their life. And if they are continuing to live in a society which continues to throw up these barriers, doesn't allow them to easily access foods that are healthy, they may lapse back into the old habits. And I've seen that happen too much. And that's another reason why I teach classes for free. And so that's pretty much my story. I've talked enough. Here is my wife. I gotta tell you that her story, in case you were concerned that she had, this strong genetic tendency toward having heart disease 12 years ago. She's now 74, I'm 75. She has no evidence of heart disease. This is where we went to Italy a few years ago, and we're doing well and happy that we made the change. And I would wish the same for all of you. So with that said, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to go back before I go on and see if anybody has a question about what happened in my life and what difficulties I may have had or challenges or what you're worried about. Tell me. Just raise your hand or unmute yourself and speak. And maybe it's too new for that.
Well, it's an inspiring story, Charlie.
Thank you, Scott. Hey, it's kept me inspired for a lot of years, literally. And so if there are no questions at this moment in time, Then let's go on a little bit further, and I'll show you some statistics about food and food choices and why this may be difficult, but why it may be accomplishable by you. And you can reap the same benefits. Scott talked to you about the lifestyle medicine issues, and the ways to control your health and how important they are. And so now I want to share with you, not exactly sure why this is in the way here. Let me see if I can get this out. So we're going to focus our attention on healthful eating. Now, many of you may not be aware of the American Medical Association resolution for all US hospitals. And I think it's something that you should be aware if you wind up in a hospital these days. In 2017, the AMA passed a resolution which was supported, co-sponsored by the American College of Cardiology, which the resolution was encouraging hospitals, they should be providing plant-based meals and remove cancer-causing processed meats. Here it is down here. Provide a variety of healthful food, including plant-based meals, low in fat, sodium, and added sugars, eliminating processed meats from the menu. Those processed meats are what? Sausage and bacon and the lunch meats that are fed to our kids at schools. And they're a class 1 carcinogen as determined by the World Health Organization in, I believe it was 2010. So anyway, if you've been to a hospital recently, you may have noted that they haven't quite switched over as yet, but some are starting to transition. But there are organizations that are really promoting whole food, plant-based lifestyle, not only for individual health, but for the health of the environment. I'm not going to go over all of them, but you can see the American Association of Clinical Endocrinology, American Diabetic Association, Institute for Cancer Research, many countries like Canada, Brazil, Germany, Netherlands, Qatar, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, all recommend more plant-based diet. So think of these reasons, the root causes of disease. And that way, rather than treating the symptoms like high blood pressure or high blood sugar, we treat the root causes, which is what we eat, how we move, the chemicals we choose, and how we deal with stress. So the problem is this. We live about 4 years less, and we spend about twice as much on our health care as the other developed countries in the world. There's something wrong with that picture. 7 to 8 out of 10 people with chronic illness might not have to suffer these diseases should they choose to make different lifestyle choices. And we're talking about heart disease and erectile dysfunction. Erectile dysfunction occurs because we used to think it was in the male's mind. I can't tell you how many people I've counseled about this is a psychological problem. What I missed is that it was clogging of the penile arteries, which are smaller than the coronary arteries. And so it was like a canary in the coal mine. It's like if someone has erectile dysfunction, they better be evaluated for clogging arteries throughout the rest of their body, or they're going to wind up with heart attacks and strokes on top of it. Diabetes, kidney disease, obesity, cancer, autoimmune, and GI issues all are improved by making healthy lifestyle choices, choices that you all can make. So why is food such an important issue, and why, how did we get to where we're at? Well, let's look at how our foods have changed over the last 100 years or so. We used to, as Americans, eat 5 pounds of sugar per year. 5-pound bag of sugar sounds like a lot, but over a year period of time, not very much sugar. Look how much the average American was eating in 2010, about 77 pounds. And you know what they're eating now? Closer to 100 pounds per year. Let's look at the oils and fats in our diet. Used to be 4 pounds a year. Now it's up to 74 pounds per year. Cheese has gone from 2 pounds to 30 pounds. You add up the difference between what we used to eat and what we eat now, and it's no wonder that 2 out of 3 of our people in our population are overweight or obese. It's the food that we need to do something about. We need to analyze what foods we're eating, what foods are really going to bring us health. And if we analyze that and really look at it without bias, without saying, I want to keep eating this food because it tastes so good to me and because I've always eaten it, as opposed to maybe you could look at it this way. What foods am I going to choose that are actually going to bring me health? And will my taste buds change so they actually taste just as good to me in a few weeks, a few months, or a couple years? And would it be worth it to me? Would my life be so much better? Would I live so much healthier? Would I, you know, that curve that Scott showed you, squaring the curve? Would I be able to square the curve so I lived without illness those last 10 years and then pop out of the world without having to suffer my last 10 years in the life? And if you have answers to yes to that, then you may really want to focus your attention on what we have to say in these classes. Soft drinks, we used to have none to 43 gallons a year per person now. TV time, sedentary lifestyle, so important. The average American, 4 hours a day sitting around. If you're sitting that much, then you better get up, take some breaks every hour, at least 5 minutes. Don't be sitting straight 3 to 4 hours a day watching the tube. And fiber. This is the deficiency in the American diet. It is not protein, as we're going to show you in a moment. It's fiber. The average American eats 14 to 15 grams of fiber per day. Our country recommends 25 to 35 grams per day. But in countries that have hardly any heart disease or diabetes or obesity, they're eating 60, 80, and 100 grams of fiber. That's what we used to eat. That sounds like an awful lot. But if you think about a half a cup of beans as being 7 grams of fiber, serving of fruit or vegetables like 3 or 4 grams, you do that 3 times a day, you're up to 20. You add some other foods in there, other plant foods that have fiber, you are really on your way to getting rid of the deficiency which we have in our diet. Now, people oftentimes are, like they're not so healthy themselves. They're on high blood pressure medicine, or they're on heart pills, or they're on diabetic medicine. And so what's the question they ask you? They've got a fistful of pills and you tell them, I'm going plant-based. And they look at you and say, yeah, but you can't get enough protein. Where do you get your protein if you're only eating plants? Well, let's look at that. We're going to take 500 calories of plants and we're going to compare that to 500 calories of animal-based. And these are the plants. They're tomatoes, spinach, lima beans, peas, and potatoes. And we're going to take, that's the plants, and then equal parts of beef, pork, chicken, and whole milk are the animal. Okay, so 500 calories of plants probably fits in the palm of your hand, whereas you need kind of a small volleyball to get 500 calories of plant foods. That will fill you up, keep you full, not craving throughout the day. And so let's look at the nutrient value. There's no cholesterol in the plant-based foods. Cholesterol in the animal. Look at the fat amount. Very little fat in the plants. Lots more, 9 times as much fat in the animal. Look at the protein. If this doesn't surprise you, They're pretty much identical. In fact, all protein originates from plants. The plants take nitrogen out of the air, split the nitrogen molecule, make amino acids. Those are like the bricks or building blocks of all protein. Along comes an animal, eats the plant like grass, and makes protein. We don't need to eat the animal to get the protein. We could eat the grass. Well, we don't have to eat grass. It's dirty. It has worm eggs in it. I don't like that concept. But we can eat fruit and vegetables that we wash, and we can eat whole grains, and we can eat legumes, beans, and lentils, and we can get all the protein we need. Spinach is 40% protein, believe it or not. There is protein in every plant food. Protein or fiber is like plants have a skeleton, which is called fiber. Animals have a skeleton, which it's called bones. So animal products have bones, no fiber. Fiber in plants is their skeleton, and look how much fiber you get. 500 calories a plant, you get 30 grams of fiber. In animals, 0. And then if you look at all the rest of the nutrients, the calcium, the magnesium, the folate, the beta carotene, they are so much more in plant foods than they are in animal foods. If you look at the facts of nutrition, you start saying to yourself, why am I eating what I'm eating? Why am I spending more money on meat, dairy, and eggs than I would be spending on beans, rice, potatoes, oatmeal, in-season fruit and vegetables? And, beans are so cheap. They're what, $1 a can, $1.25 maybe, if you want. I guess you can buy some organic things that are $2.99 or $3.50 a can. We're not encouraging you to do that. You want to make your own beans, they're even less than $1 a can, but that's not the cost of meat, dairy, and eggs. So think about those issues as you move forward and try to make sense of all this, because ultimately that's what you have to do. You have to try to make sense of this like I did. I was the standard American doctor, eating the standard American diet. They were both sad. It was sad because they had side effects. The side effects of the standard American diet are overweight, diabetes, heart disease, and all the other illnesses we talked about. The sad part about being the standard American diet is I pushed pills at people that I had no business pushing at them, only because of my training that I thought I was doing good, and I was only treating symptoms, not the root cause. When I started treating the root cause of disease, I became a happy doctor. That's why I became a doctor, to help people. And that's what's happening now. And I don't have to charge them to help them. Now, I was in Valley River Center, and this was a couple years ago, maybe a few now. And at Halloween time, I saw this sign, toxic wings, burgers, fries. I thought it was a Halloween joke. I went over to the food court, and sure enough, there is a restaurant. Many of you may have been there. Your teenagers may have taken you there, because the food is hot and spicy. But the kind of foods are truly toxic. The fries, the burgers, the wings. I think you'll learn that there are toxic products in these foods. Does it really matter what you eat? It does matter what you eat. And if you look at the science, as we go through these classes, you will find, as I said before, your genes only make up a certain amount of whether you're going to be healthy or ill, about 20%. You can alter the course of your diseases, even reverse many of them, by making healthier lifestyle choices. You want to prevent your body from rusting and aging. So you're encouraged to eat antioxidants, more fruits and vegetables to combine with the free radicals that are produced by the meat, dairy, egg that you're eating on your food. There's a TMAO story, which you'll learn about during the cardiology part of this section, about how TMAO gets produced in your microbiome when you feed them certain foods like carnitine and choline, like meat, dairy, and eggs. And you promote a certain type of bacteria in your colon, and that produces this TMAO ultimately, which pushes cholesterol into your arteries, causing you to have plaque buildup and developing heart disease. You'll learn about nitric oxide and how if you chew on dark green leafies, get your saliva on that, it hits your stomach and forms nitric oxide, which dilates your arteries, lowers your blood pressure, heals the inside lining of your arteries, makes them healthy so you don't have to develop plaque and high blood pressure. And you'll also learn about advanced glycation end products, AGEs, ages. These products age you. When you heat meat, you get a lot of ages. You'll learn about that. You'll learn that foods have heavy metals in them. They have some other chemicals which are harmful, and many are found in the fast foods and the processed foods that you may be eating. And then the last thing I want to mention is for those who want improved athletic performance, academic performance for our kids, watch The Game Changers on Netflix. The Game Changers is a really good movie which will help you understand the benefits of eating a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. I'm going to end with this. At least I'm going to ask for some questions, and I'll come back. You know, I've got 1,000 slides, but I want to show you. I mentioned the clogged artery before. Here it is. And this is 1 to 3 years later, opened up, nice, good flow, not this narrowed artery. That is just with food. That is not a stent. It's not a bypass. It's just 1 to 3 years of a healthy lifestyle of eating food. And then you'll learn. You can go to Netflix in 100 years, the Blue Zones. It's a special for, I think, 4 hours. It's free. You can learn about the healthiest places on the earth. Scott mentioned this. You can see what they have in common: family, no smoking, plant-based diet. They have constant moderate physical activity, social engagement, and legumes. Legumes are the beans and lentils that I was talking about that have so much fiber in them. I don't like to fight, but I wouldn't mind having a body like this guy, either of these guys, and all they eat is plants. Carl Lewis, the Williams sisters, football players, and these guys, they look pretty thin, but let me tell you, this man holds the world record for miles run in 24 hours. A marathon is 26.2 miles. He ran 160, I think 6 or 7 miles in 24 hours, and all he eats is plants. There are meat-specific toxins that we want to teach you about. We want to tell you about low carbohydrate diets and how they, you may lose weight, but you're stuffing yourself with fat and protein, which is hard on the kidneys, and you're gonna decrease the blood flow in your heart after about a year, and you're gonna lower your life expectancy. We don't want you to do that. We want you to read about the science and talk about it and make a decision that'll bring you health in the long term, not just some short-term weight loss. Plant-based nutrition changes everything, according to Dr. Clapper, and we'd like to review that with you at some point. There are so many videos that we want to share with you, as Scott shared with you, and if we have time, we'll share some of those today. But if there's enough questions, we'll just answer them for you. It is time for a change. Think about why you want to change what you're eating. What is your goals? There are many options beside coming to these classes. There's a 21-day kickstart at the Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine. There's Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, a free app on your Apple and Android phones. There are so many sites to help you with lifestyle change, more videos. And then if you don't really want to do this, you have no health problems, then think about the effect on the world. The effect on the world has to do with how much water resources we're using, how we pollute the air with the methane from raising livestock, how we pollute the oceans, use up our land by cutting down areas to provide more grazing, how we reduce the fish stores in our oceans by 90% since 1960. Those may be an important environmental issue to you. And then for the animals' sake, you may want to focus a little attention on how the animal products you buy in the markets, how they are raised. I personally choose not to support a concentration camp-like atmosphere for any kind of animal. And that's how most of the grocery market foods are produced. I'm gonna stop there because I could go on forever, and I'm sorry that I kept doing that, but I want to see if you have some questions, and we want to get to them and answer them for you. Okay, Nancy.
Yes, I went on to the website. It's Dietary Guidelines for Americans.
Yeah.
And they update their guidelines I think 2025 is the next one. But anyway, they're taking input from people about, ideas of what they should do. So you guys might want to look into that and get your 2 cents worth in on the dietary guidelines.
Well, we appreciate that, and I have tried that. I kind of leave that to Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine, although probably we should get involved, and maybe Eugene Plant-Based Providers could do a little note to that group. It's a good suggestion, Nancy. We'll take it up at our next meeting.
Yeah, well, because I think the more different, varied people, across the country that get in on this, the more they're going to listen to us. You know what I'm saying? If it's just a few people here and there talking about it, then, oh, well, no big deal. But if it's a big groundswell of people, I think they'll be more inclined to take us seriously. That's my
excellent thought. Do you happen to have their link close by? Kim is asking.
I just Googled dietary guidelines for Americans, and it came up.
Okay, so did you get that, Kim? Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Do a Google search. I know you can do it. Okay, let's see if there's any other hands, I'll go back to the gallery for a moment and see if there are any questions or anybody has any input as to what we've covered so far, or what you would like to see covered, or what experiences you've had, what you're worried about, the barriers, the struggles you've had, or the good successes. These classes are for all of that. Okay, Marcia.
Well, I agree with everything that you said, because I know when I started in 2017, my hand had swelled up and my arthritis or whatever it was. I knew that I had to make a change. It was inflammation in my body. I knew enough about that to know it was inflammation. So I Googled what causes inflammation in the body. It took me to Dr. Neil Bernard on YouTube. And it was like an hour talk, and he talked about don't eat meat, don't eat dairy, don't eat oil. That was over an hour, and I thought, well, what are you supposed to eat? It's that, you got to figure out what you're going to eat. And it's a challenge. And I know the first year I stumbled quite a bit, but I've been doing this for 7 years now, and I have no health problems. I love it. I'm 120 pounds. I'm 5'2". I'm healthy. My doctor says I'm a poster child. I'm, you know,
That's a
How's your
wonderful
arthritis?
story.
oh, it's gone. Had no problems. Nothing. Yay!
Thanks for sharing that, Nancy or Marcia. Okay, let's see if there's anybody else who has a little comment. Don't be shy.
I've got a
Alan?
comment.
Yeah,
I've got a comment
Alan.
over here. Okay, I've been fighting the cholesterol thing. I thought I was fighting my genetic makeup. I started in about 1985, finding out what things had a lot of fat that I was already eating. I cut down a whole lot on like chocolate chips. I cut down on a lot of meat that I was eating, a lot of other things that, you know, this took gradually quite a while, but a few years ago, I heard about the plant-based whole food diet. And I thought, well, you know, that sounds kind of like where I'm trying to go, but what about protein? But just in the last, I would say in the last couple of years, I've been finding out that, you know, like what you were just saying about the whole thing about um, plants don't have any fat in them. It's the animals that we eat that are having the fat. And I didn't really like the idea of eating animals anyway. And I was really getting rid of meat in my diet by probably, I don't know, 2015 or something. But it wasn't so much that I got the connection at that point between getting rid of meat and going toward the whole foods, the whole plant thing. It's like, well, what are you going to eat anyway? But finding out that fiber is the thing to be like counting all those numbers, how many grams of this, how many grams of that. Looking at that fiber, you know, I'm eating chia seeds. I ground up chia seeds, ground up flax seeds, a lot of collards, kale, plants that I had only just vaguely heard of, say 5 years ago. And now, you know, what I'm eating today, kale, collard, bean soup. It's great. And I did not realize the extent to which that the sugar-based stuff like you know, like wheat thins, brand name there, those were some of my favorite things to eat. And now I have a couple of boxes that I bought back in, I don't know, April or May, and they're sitting there. I'm not eating them anymore. I'm not attracted to them because I'm getting all the protein or fiber or just foods, vitamins, all that stuff. I already get that stuff that I need in the whole food plant-based diet that I am gradually, you know, moving on into. So I'm still, you know, getting my 6-month checkup. My cholesterol's down like around 160. All of my LDL and HDL and triglycerides, all the things are like going into a really good shape without having to think about, oh, geez, am I getting enough protein? Am I taking enough? You know, I never was taking blood pressure meds. I never was taking diabetes. I avoided those things already before I got there. But, you know, like now I'm 76 and I have never felt more healthy as far as my diet and my, you know, day-to-day stuff that I do than I do now. So thanks for doing this and right on. And I'm learning more all the time. I'm watching these shows real often. So thanks for doing them.
Well, thank you for those comments. It sounds like you're really getting on track. For those people who are like you, who have been doing this for a while and are in the process of transitioning, we want to also ensure that you've had the information to incorporate vitamin B12 into your lifestyle. Okay, thumbs up, that's good. And for those of you who don't understand the reasoning behind that, we really want to discuss that with you. So make sure that you're getting some vitamin B12. If you're under age 65, it's 2,000 micrograms once a week. And if you're over age 65, it's 1,000 micrograms a day. That's Gregor's recommendation, not ours. But you know, he's the guy who's been looking at the science, and he says cyanocobalamin is the healthiest. So let's see, anybody else care to share? I'm looking around the room.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Does cyanocobalamin have any trace of cyanide in it?
Yeah, so there is a cyanide molecule in, and that's one of the reasons I chose to take methylcobalamin for my first about 6 years. And then I was reading the science and I listened to Gregor, and I just decided, as he recommends, look, there isn't enough cyanide in there to cause you cyanide poisoning. The studies that show reversal of B12 deficiency have been done with cyanocobalamin, not methylcobalamin. And so that's why I chose to start on that several years ago on his advice. I think Clapper does methylcobalamin, and I don't know, Scott, what you do at this point. I think cyano.
I do cyano. I was doing it back and forth, doing a combination, but yeah, the cyano is fine.
And you're not going to be poisoned with cyanide is the bottom line. Gregor has reassured us about that. And do I trust him? Yes, I trust him. Why do I trust him? I've asked every participant in any of my classes for the last 12 years and every medical student who's interacted with me to find something wrong with his work. And I've yet to have someone say, hey, you know, he's just, you know, got a bias here, or he's, you know, there's a problem here or there. And he also corrects when he needs to correct. He keeps up with the evidence-based articles every year with his 19 other volunteers, reviewing every article in nutrition around the world. I trust him.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions that we might have from anyone? Don't be shy. I know it's hard. You know, some of you are new and, you know, kind of like a little squeamish. But, you know, if you have a question, I'm sure somebody else has it. Go ahead, Ken.
Just want to say, I like Michael Gregor because he sued Stephen Gundry. You know,
I didn't hear you did.
The guy he tells us we shouldn't eat beans.
Yeah, he sued Gundry. He likes him because he sued Gundry. You know, Gundry tells us don't eat beans, even though the blue zones that they're living the longest and the healthiest. Yeah, Gregor sticks up for what is right, doesn't back down. Thanks, Ken. How about you, Susan?
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but I was just gonna ask if anybody had seen the Netflix documentary called You Are What You Eat, a twins experiment. It's just came right out in 2024. It's a 4-part series. It's just like an hour or less for each series. So.
Yeah, I just finished watching it today. It was great.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
me too. I finished it as well.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was wonderful. It was great. But it didn't talk about why dairy isn't good for you. It talked about beef, pork, salmon, but it didn't talk about dairy, unfortunately. Right?
Right, it didn't talk about that, I remember, but they didn't include that in the twins study who didn't eat meat. There was also no dairy. It was completely vegan.
Right. But the show didn't cover the negative effects of the dairy industry.
Yeah, they did talk a
Well,
lot about cheese being really addicting, and that was a hard thing for a lot of people to give up, was cheese. And then they did do a plug of the plant-based cheeses and stuff on there.
That's
So
true. Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
But I noticed in the study too, I mean, it was a healthy omnivorous diet compared to a vegan diet, and the vegan diet wasn't even as healthy as what we teach here. I mean, they were eating a lot of processed vegan foods and oils and things like that, and it still
Yeah.
showed good effects. And so I think they're trying to appeal to the general population, because a lot of people they talk about those as being transition foods too, like we do in these classes. And so that was kind of an interesting aspect of it.
Yeah.
So bottom line to this, wrapping it up, watch it. The name of
Yeah.
it is, what is it again?
You are what you eat.
You are what you eat. If you don't believe it, watch the series.
and it's subtitled A Twin Experiment,
Very
24
good.
twins groups.
Thank you for sharing that. Nancy.
Yes. It wasn't too long ago. I was listening, and I don't remember what I was listening to or whatever, but they were saying that if you wanted to get pregnant, you should stay away from fish for 5 years before you got pregnant. And for everybody else, they shouldn't have fish more than once a month. And I would just love to know where that information came from. And I was just wondering if anybody else had heard it. I mean, like I say, it just kind of came and went, and I don't know, it might have been on NPR. I don't know where it came from, but if anybody else had heard it or knows anything about that research, or because I'd like to quote it, but I don't, I
Yeah.
hate to do it without, that
Yeah. So
thing
yeah. So
behind it.
Go ahead,
yeah. Well,
Scott.
they've been talking about, pregnant women not eating fish for a long time. That's been a OBGYN recommendation for years because of all the pollutants and heavy metals and everything like that. So it's just
Mercury, dioxins,
all that. So now they're saying, if you're planning to get pregnant, it takes a while for some of that to get out of your system. You shouldn't be eating it. But that, to me, it's just a red flag. Well, why should we ever be eating it, right? Because it's so polluted. Maybe fish 100 years ago was not such an issue, but with all the microplastics and the mercury and the dioxins and everything, PCBs, everything that's in the seafood these days, it's not a good choice.
Well, they were saying just once a month for the rest of us. But I was that
so
information. What can I attribute it to? I guess I hate to be throwing this information out and everybody goes, well, where did that come from? You know what I'm saying?
It came from a compromise. The committees that come up with these decisions, they have influence from the industry, and they wind up making compromised advice for the public, because the industry says, you're going to destroy our business if you tell people don't eat this at all, and money talks.
Doesn't it though? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's the same reason they have fish as a recommendation in, like American College of Cardiology and the World Sustainability Diet, the committee that came together and was making dietary recommendations not only for health but for the environment, for sustainability and all that. They also included some fish there too, because there's parts of the world where they would have trouble getting enough calories to be healthy without fish. And so there's, cultures and places on the earth that, they need some fish to be able to eat a sustainable diet. And so that's not necessarily for health reasons, it's for sustainability reasons, for people to get, so they don't starve. People can, so it's kind of like Charlie was saying, there's different compromises and things. And the only thing you could say about fish when it comes to the, American College of Cardiology is, well, there is some, healthy omega-3s in there. So they kind of make that compromise, even though it still has saturated fat, cholesterol, and it's not health promoting from a heart disease standpoint, but it's a better choice than, say, bacon or sausage. And so they make a concession there.
Doug,
If for 80-year-olds, is there any reversal of atherosclerosis on whole food plant-based, or is he pretty much stuck with it?
yeah, so I had a question about that many years ago on one of my first, I don't know, maybe I'd been teaching for 3 years or 4 years in Roseburg, and a 94-year-old lady was visiting one of her relatives. She said she had had a heart attack about 6 months ago and said she didn't want another. So she went on a whole food plant-based diet completely at age of 94. And ever since that time, and if you read through Greger, yes, 80 is an okay age to start. Any age is okay to start. And you can, stop whatever progression that you're having in its tracks. And whether you actually get unclogging and reversal, I don't know. It's different for different people, but it surely would be your best option for preventing further continuing closure.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Again, some people say, I'm in my 80s or I'm 90. How much more life do I have in me? Do I really want to, I really enjoy what I'm eating, and why would I really want to change? And so, you get to make that decision. No policeman here. You're not going to get any tickets from any of us by saying you're not doing the right thing. But I will say this: diet change, increasing the exercise in your life, those are two things that can dramatically improve your health. Okay. And let's see, I see some claps in the background. Linda and company. Joan, go ahead. Unmute.
National Geographic was the one that had the article that talked about not eating seafood. It's an article, Reproductive Revolution.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I was just really curious, yeah, I'll have to see if I can track that down or something. National Geographic, what month?
I'm looking, January.
Oh, this January. So it just came out. Oh, okay. So that's probably why somebody had mentioned it. And yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, Dave and Sheree. Just unmute first.
Well, that's all I have to say. Nutritionfacts.org has an article called Say No to Fish 5 Years Before Pregnancy, Dr. Greger put out there. As far as changing your diet, it's done wonders for me. I remember telling somebody 3 or 4 years ago, I retired, and I was telling them, don't wait to do what you want to do until you're retired, because you won't be able to anymore. And I was always a runner, and it's like, you just can't do it. So you better do it now before it's too late. But then after going on, it took me a long time to get to find your group, but I started out trying to eat whole foods, but I still had like some yogurts and salmon and meat. And but that helped. You just cut out the processed foods, the weight drops. I mean, at least for me. You don't have to diet. It just happens. And then I got into the plant-based stuff, and I lost even more weight. And I'm now able to do the things that I thought I would never be able to do again. And it's just kind of nice that, you know, you can get your health back.
I love you sharing that story. I've had others share similar kinds of stories, and I hope that this class gets to hear from Stu Stevens, who actually has tears in his eyes as he explains about how he actually got his life back. He thought he was going to die for years and years because his doctor told him that he wasn't going to live very long with the diabetes, and so this is really life-enhancing stuff that costs nothing, really. Yeah.
I was also able to get off my cholesterol medicine and 2 high blood pressure medicines. And I tried about 8 years ago to get off my cholesterol medicine, but I still had salmon and, you know, yogurt in my diet, and I couldn't do it. But I'm off them now. And I think my doctor's surprised, but
Well, congratulations to you. We're really thrilled, and thanks for sharing your story. Ken, I'll get to you next. First, Doug, and I'll let you finish eating a little bit more. Doug?
Okay, I just want to say, you know, about 15, 20 years ago, my A1C is up around 6, and my doctor said I was going to become diabetic. I took a series of classes at a local hospital every couple of years. I stayed in the pre-diabetic range, 5.78, you know, up to 6. And after going on not completely whole food plant-based, I'm no longer pre-diabetic, you know. So there's atherosclerosis may not reverse, but certainly with diabetes, it's been very beneficial.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And the atherosclerosis may reverse if you did it like Esselstyn recommends to do it. You could get his book, How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. It's like 12 or 13 bucks. Read through it, see what you think.
Okay, I will.
Just a thought. Okay, Ken, it's your platform. Unmute first.
Okay, there we go. Where do y'all find that program, You Are What You Eat?
It's on Netflix.
Okay. And then to kind of complement what Dave said about putting things off, this isn't, with what I'm going to say, I realize you may not live another year, but I'm a real fan of the late Warren Miller and the incredible movies he made. And he said every single one of the episodes, somewhere during that episode, he said, if you don't take lessons this year, you'll be another year older when you do. I just kind of live by that. It's like, it's just another antique, like don't put it off till tomorrow what you can do today.
Very good.
So anyway, everybody's giving their stories. I'll give you a quick one of mine. And 2.5 years ago, I made a lot of changes. I actually made changes before that and lost quite a bit of weight, just being extremely active, climbing some mountains, serious trips. And then when I got 2.5 years ago, I went on, I just did a whole lot of things that are making me live longer. And one was I went on this plant-based lifestyle, and I lost 20 pounds immediately. And I've been able to stay well within my BMI, which is very important for a person who's trying to avoid liver cancer. Because as everyone knows by now, diabetes is not caused by eating sugar, it's caused by fat. And so I was 75 pounds heavier than I am now for years. And I carried it well. Nobody ever told me I was, well, very seldom. Some people I climb with kind of made comments, but most people didn't even notice I was that heavy until I lost 75 pounds. And everybody goes, I didn't even know you were overweight. So I guess I'll leave it at that because I'm old enough now that I have memory lapses. But this class made a big difference. And what I wanted to say was, so liver cirrhosis comes after fatty liver. I ignored my gastro doctor's advice for 12 years. They kept saying, if you don't quit drinking and you don't quit eating so much fatty foods, you're going to get liver cirrhosis. And I just didn't take it serious. And then one day a doctor yelled at me and said, you have no business drinking at all and you need to lose weight. Did a caveman eat crackers? Did a caveman eat cookies? Well, you shouldn't either. And that guy was just yelling at me. And you know what? I haven't had a drink since the day. That's actually 4 years ago, but it made going on this lifestyle a lot easier. So I was diagnosed, by then I was diagnosed with NASH, which Scott knows and Charlie knows the full name, but it's non-alcohol generated liver cirrhosis. And liver cirrhosis cannot be reversed. If you got a healthy liver, you could give half of it to somebody and it'll grow back. But damage caused by NASH or being overweight leads to liver cirrhosis. And then we have the Grim Reaper's even closer now because we're living in fear of liver cancer. And so to me, this diet's like saving my life. I can easily stay within my BMI eating this way. And it's extremely important. I've got, like a lot of you, I have a bunch of grandchildren and I might get to see one graduate. I hope he graduates in 2 years and then there's a whole lot after him. So I'm going to reflect on what everybody else said tonight. Really appreciate what you do. Don't even know for sure why you do it. You're extremely generous, sirs. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Ken.
Ken. Yeah, does our heart good to listen to stories like that, and congratulations to you. Keep at it. We have time for one or two more questions. If there's anybody else who wants to share, and if there's no one else who wants to share, it's okay. You can drop out at any time that you want. Nancy wants to say something, and then there's one other. Let's see, potentially. So let's start with Nancy, and then we'll go to our run.
Unmute Nancy.
I just wanted to comment. I listen to a lot of books while I garden and work and everything. And I just started another one. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but it's called Ultra Processed People. And oh my gosh, I knew things were bad, but I didn't know that they were that bad. And oh man, it's a real eye opener. It's like, oh gosh, the whole foods, you got to stay with whole foods. So.
Good comments. We eat way too much ultra processed food in our life. A run.
Yes, and one of those ultra processed foods is sugar. And I know in a clean world, we wouldn't have any bit of it. But it seems to creep in so many places. So do you have a way to say, okay, if you have a spoon of sugar a day, that's okay, or half a spoon or whatever? Do you have any comments on that?
My comments are, if you're getting the health benefits that you want, you're not having to take pills, medications, anything like that. You're otherwise leading a healthy lifestyle and you feel okay to have a bit of sugar as a taste, not as a food, but as, sort of um, a bit of a taste, seems to be an okay thing. Sugar itself, when it's taken out of its natural environment, like stripped down, like white sugar from sugar cane, you lose the fiber, you lose the other nutrients. And so it kind of lights up your brain, you want more of it. And so it can be kind of like an addiction kind of problem. So this is a very individual kind of thing. And if someone comes and tells me I'm not getting the benefits I want, I would tell them, why don't you do this whole food thing 100%, see how you're feeling. And then you could go back and add some of the things. Scott, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you summed it up well there. We have classes on food addiction and behavior change. And if you're anyone that's new to these classes, if you want to get an idea of what's coming up, on the homepage of the website has the class schedule for the next few months. And then you can also go to the class archives from 2023 and review all the classes that we did last year every week, and you'll get an idea of what's coming up this next year. And you could always, ones that you're interested in, you don't want to wait, you can watch the recording from last year. Next week we're going to be doing part 1 of 2 of meal preparation and planning. So hope you guys join us for that.
Well, Ron, if you're exercising and you're not taking pills and you're otherwise happy to have a little sugar, it's not a crime.
Thank you.
Okay. Linda and company had they were gonna wait, they were waving, and then we'll finish with Joan. Maybe you were waving, maybe not. Just unmute. You can, there's a little microphone that says mute underneath it, and you just click on it.
I got a quick question while
Ken.
I missed something. So in February, you're going to start having classes at the Y.
Correct.
On Sundays. And will we still have classes on Zoom on Tuesdays?
Yes.
I'm hoping there's a kitchen at the Y, and sometimes we might get to cook.
Well, we've thought about that. We're not sure exactly how that will work. We're going to have some more discussion on that.
There is a kitchen in the community room where we're having the classes, though. So we have intentions of doing cooking demonstration in there. So, but we still have another planning meeting coming up to finalize the curriculum for those classes at the Y.
Okay, Joan.
What's Sunday?
Or wait, Linda, you're unmute. You're mute, and you're okay. You can talk.
Now we have a question about the classes at the Y.
Yes.
Are those registration only, or can we go?
Yeah, Scott, you want to go through how to register?
Sure. Yeah, let me go to the class, a couple of different places you can go. It's in the class newsletter every week. So if you're getting the Sunday morning emails from me, all that information's there. So make sure you read those. If you're new to the classes and you're not signed up for the newsletter, you can subscribe right here. Just click on subscribe to the weekly class newsletter, put your email, first and last name, subscribe. And the website, if you're new, is livelifestylemedicine.com. And so go back to the homepage. There's a flyer for the classes at the Y right here. Just a picture of a PDF file of the information about the classes. So you can sign up by either emailing me or Charlie, which our emails are both listed here. And then the other place you can go to sign up more directly, if you're familiar with our Eugene Plant-Based Provider nonprofit group, you can click on it here to get to that website. And that's eugeneplantbasedproviders.com. And right here on the homepage, here it is, free in-person classes at the Y. And you can sign up right here, put your first and last name, your phone number, and email, and click send, and you'll be in. And we're already pretty full on the we're a limit of 40 people because that's about all that can fit in the room, and we're basically already full for the 2 to 3 o'clock hour, where we're going to do a second class for the 3 to 4 o'clock hour. So if you haven't signed up yet and you're interested, you'll likely be put in the 3 to 4 p.m. class, but you can sign up right here.
Thank you.
And those are free as well. But yes, sign up required because we only have so much room there.
You're welcome. Glad you could make it. And then Joan.
I'll ask the question next week. No worries.
Okay, we have time.
Okay, I want to know about honey.
So again, if you're not eating it as a food, you're not eating a whole bunch of it, a taste in some tea or whatever it might be, maybe something that's okay for transition, may even be okay, a little bit of that if you are otherwise healthy and not having problems, you're not taking diabetic medication or whatever it might be. So it just depends on what your personal health is and what your goals are.
Is it considered better or worse than sugar?
Neither one of them have fiber really. Neither one of them, so it's extra calories either way. In my mind, it doesn't really make all that much difference. Honey comes from honeybees, so I guess I'd go with the sugar rather than the honey. But some people like the honey they claim it has anti-allergy effects, certain kinds of honey. I don't know if that's true or false. Scott, do you have any take on honey versus sugar?
Well, I guess it would, it's it's not a processed food like white. I would guess I would put it ahead of white sugar, but it's still, it's going to still light up the brain all the same. So if you think about, you got in back in the hunter-gatherer days, you got into a beehive and got all that honey, it lights up the brain because it's a lot of calories per bite. So it's a survival benefit because you're getting a lot of calories. You're not going to starve to death, but it's still going to light up the brain. But just like Charlie was saying earlier, if you're just putting a little teaspoon of it in your tea or something like that once in a while, it's fine. Where it gets into a problem is if you're eating honey a lot, you're eating sugar a lot, then fruit's not going to taste very sweet. So you want fruit to be sweet to you. So if you're eating Fruit Loops, then a ripe peach is never going to taste very sweet. Whereas if you just don't eat honey, don't eat white sugar, you don't even eat too much, because dried fruit's pretty sweet too. So you want to get to the point where fresh fruit and even maybe a little bit of dried fruit, that's like your dessert. That's really sweet because that's more natural in nature. But yeah, so you don't want to eat too much of the things that really light the brain up, because then the food, regular natural food won't do it for you.
Thank you.
Note, we're going to have to end the class. We will be back again next week, and we'll answer whatever questions you have. Scott, what's next week?
Yeah, part 1 of 2 on meal preparation and planning. So I'll start off the class by going over the website, all the resources for meal plans and the meal building basics handout, some other handouts on the website. And then for the other time we have, Charlie will probably show some of the foods that he and Christine make and eat. And then we'll have a part 2, and hopefully we'll get some like we did last year. I know we had some more regulars that have been coming to class for a while, chime in and kind of talk to you guys about what they do with their families and how they plan for meals. And hopefully we can get, Vonda to come back and Velvet if those two are available. I know they contributed a lot last year, and it was really helpful, I think, for everybody.
Okay. Another fun night. Scott?
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Till the next time.
And we're just gonna go, goodbye.